Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Surfers. You'll have to excuse my hay fever for this episode, but we'll truck along. So, as we went through in the previous episode, just to recap a couple of things, we focus on the blood on your hands, the shaming of the Australian people for the events that were going on. And we also went through some Hegelian Dialectic stuff and the way that the media was covering it. And we went through some of the events. Now, I want to say up front that there will be I'm deliberately not focusing on breaking down all of the events because this will change. I'll be wrong about stuff. I have been wrong about stuff, I'm sure. You know, there'll be new things that come to light. So this isn't like a fixation on the event itself, though is of course important. So, you know, there's other things that I didn't mention in the last video, like, you know, the Google trend, you know, like the searching from Israel of the shooter that the day before the event happened. So there's going to be a lot of this kind of stuff, and things will change over time. But that's not what I'm wanting to talk about here. What I'm wanting to talk about are the causal factors and this kind of larger system at play, and taking a more holistic view at it. Because this is designed, these events are designed or taken advantage of, whichever way you want to think about it, but to implement slavery systems. There's no other way to put it. And they feed on the left versus the right. You know, they are the ones that are flooding the immigrants, and then, you know, you have the other side stepping in, and then, you know, you're not cracking down on Islam enough, and you know, you're not going after the true terrorists, and we need to get them out of the country, and then you know, you're feeding that, even in that white Australia stuff, and then you have the, you know, the stuff that's going on in Gaza and Israel and the Jewish part of it, and the very real stuff that is going on there, but then you have like this kind of, like, you know, not allowed to talk about it because of the anti-Semitism stuff and all of that. And then so you have and then you have like all of these different factions and wings and interests and all of that, and this is why they went with the blood on your hands, because they're trying to, you know, they're trying to come up with, like, you know, they're continually feeding into this narrative, but it's all designed to have people locked into this versus that at every step of the way. So I wanted to get into it now, but I also wanted to bring in some educational learning videos on the deeper parts of it, which are kind of which is the whole point of why I'm doing this. I'm speaking out because of the tyranny and the slavery and the way that the world is rapidly going. If it wasn't going in this direction, there wouldn't be such a need for all of us to speak up. You know, so this is my way of you know, having true care and practicing what I'm attempting to bring out here, which is that we need to know what is right from wrong ourselves, that there are no external authorities, and we need to act in accordance with true morality. So let's see what the reaction is after all of these events. We need to keep it, you know, and again, I haven't even watched this. I've seen what it's about, but again, this is about you know, ushering in these systems.
Scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms, the largest buyback since the Howard government initiated one in 19...
I'll start that from the beginning.
Today, I'm also announcing that the government will establish a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms, the largest buyback since the Howard government initiated one in 1996. Australia's gun laws were last substantially reformed in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy. The terrible events at Bondi show we need to get more guns off our streets. We know that one of these terrorists held a firearm licence and had 6 guns, in spite of living in the middle of Sydney suburbs there at Bondi Beach. There's no reason why someone in that situation needed that many guns. There are now more than 4 million firearms in Australia, more than at the time of the Port Arthur massacre, nearly 30 years ago. The government will introduce legislation to support the funding of this buyback scheme and meet the costs on a 50-50 basis with states and territories. We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme. Consistent with the approach that was taken in 1996, the government is proposing that states and territories will be responsible for the collection, processing and payment to individuals for surrendered firearms. The Australian Federal Police will then be responsible for the destruction of these firearms. Australians are rightly proud of our gun laws, and until 5 years ago, Australians were rightly proud that there had not been a repeat of Port Arthur. They were rightly proud we're not home to the constant carnage we see in some countries. But there have been, of course, incidents in both Queensland and Victoria that have seen so-called sovereign citizens murder police officers. We will introduce this national buyback scheme to get guns off our streets and to help to assist to make all Australians safe.
So a couple of things that we pick up on there. Okay. Invoking another false flag event, and you can watch the WASP files on it. It is a false flag event, provably. Port Arthur. It's very deliberate to invoke that. And then also, expecting hundreds of thousands of people handing them in. That's a sales technique. Everyone's doing it. Jump on board. And then the reason why I wanted to lead with this is because of the very deliberate phrasing of sovereign citizens, which means having no rulers, at the same time as having even stricter gun laws in Australia. We have some of the most strict in the world. And so now they are they're removing the ability to have more than one, but not only that, they are going to make the license not perpetual, because people could become radicalized. And so you have, and they're mentioning it at this same time and the same phrase and same context as sovereign. So if you're sovereign and you have no rulers, and then you've become radicalized, they're going to come and take your guns, so you can't defend yourself. So this is very, very deliberate, all of this, of course. And I'll skip to another one I was going to get to later, but I want to skip to it now.
And I don't apologise for the fact that we don't have the same free speech laws that they have in the United States. It's clear that we don't. We don't have the same set of regulations. It's not embedded in our Constitution the same way it is in the US. But I would argue that in 2025, within our community, with people from different races and religions from all over the world, we need a set of rules that's good for us, that works for our community, and I think these are consistent with those changes. And I don't apologise for the fact that we don't have the same free speech law.
And so, yeah, so America does have free speech laws and they have the right to bear arms as well. And so, as we saw with the shaming of the Australian population, the blood on your hands, and even if you just think that this is just a normal event and it's just a couple of people, no one agrees to these reactions. But first, and these reactions do involve, very religious, reactions as well, which is also part of that dialectic, Hegelian dialectic, that we need to move beyond. These are all designed to suck people into these conversations of like, the radical Islams are worse than the Jews, and the Jews are genociding, and like all of that kind of stuff. It's all religion, and then it brings people into this white Australia stuff, and it brings people, into this kind of conversation about Christianity. It's all religion, and atheism is a religion as well. So you have, as we saw in the previous video, and I thought it was a bit strange at the time, but this kind of push to remove the Prime Minister, well-meaning people, I understand the point, kicking out the Prime Minister because of free speech stuff and our rights being impacted and all of that kind of stuff. But the solution isn't to have a petition to remove a Prime Minister, because all of these events they have the same controllers, the same rulers, it's all designed to go from one side to the other, and then nothing ever gets solved. This is this forced immigration and these events. It's by design. So the reason why I wanted to lead with for the people that don't know, there was an event where a police officer died, and it was part of, and that's why they labeling the sovereign man thing, right? But people don't understand what the meaning of sovereignty is, and it's often associated with different belief systems or radical whatever. It's very simple, and they bastardize these words on purpose. So let's learn about what sovereignty really means.
Moreover, let's break the word sovereign down. That's where we're going to come to the real meaning of the term. Sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super. Super means above. See, in classical Latin, there's no V in classical Latin, right? There was no V character. Actually, if you wrote a V like that, it was a U, okay? And why a double U looks the way that it is. It's two V's, actually. But that sound was U in Latin, if you see a V. There's no V sound in classical Latin. It doesn't exist phonetically, all right? So this phonetic variation that we express as V or V in English, in Latin was P or B. It was represented by a P or a B. So what we're really seeing here is suver, okay? But it was pronounced in Latin super, like super. Well, what does super mean? Super, you're beyond, you're above and beyond, okay? It means above or beyond, that's what it means. A superman is one who's beyond an ordinary man, right? The Latin noun regnum comprises the second part of the etymological root of this word. Regnum, it comes from rex regis in Latin, or regis. It means king. So regnum was the king's rulership. Regnum means his reign. It's where the word reign comes from in English, regnum, in Latin. It means rulership or externally imposed control. Okay? Not control in the context, I'm going to control my emotions, I'm going to control my behavior. No. It means I'm going to control you externally by imposing my will over your will through coercion. That's the context of rulership or control that I'm talking about here. So put them together. Super regnum, sovereign, means above or beyond externally imposed rulership or control by another. That's what it means. Sovereign means not a subject to another being. like a king, like one who considers himself a king. And it means not a slave to someone who considers themselves your master. That's all sovereign means, folks. Not a slave. And why I say every single person here is a sovereign is because there is no such thing, never has been any such thing, and never will be any such thing as legitimacy to slavery. That has never existed, does not exist now, and never will exist. Slavery is an illegitimate concept. None of us are slaves. The condition of slavery has been imposed upon people, but it has never in history been legitimate, and it never will in history be legitimate. So there is no legitimacy to the concept of slavery, of the rightful rulership of another being through directly imposing your control through coercion. Doesn't exist. That's a big part of what natural law is about. We have to understand when we're saying this word, this is what is meant by sovereign, not a slave. Okay, we did a study where we asked people, are you a sovereign? Like 11% said yes. Maybe. I think it was 10 or 11%. Which I thought was almost encouraging, that 1 in 10 people knew that they were sovereign beings. It was amazing. But 90% of the human population doesn't feel that they're sovereign, doesn't know that they're sovereign. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter an iota whether you believe you are or not. I'm telling you it's an eternal truth that you are a sovereign and can never be non-sovereign. There is no such thing as someone else's legitimate rulership or ownership of you. Because there's no such thing to the legitimacy of slavery, and there never has been, and there never will be. So everyone is a sovereign. A sovereign is a monarch. Again, mon means one, and archon means ruler. So when people ask me, what kind of government do you want? I tell them I want anarchy, and I want monarchy. And they're like, how could you have those things simultaneously? Because if you have internal monarchy, you can have external anarchy. See, we need to have the rulership within, and we need to get rid of the rulership without. This is the kingdom we need to master, and we need to set aside the concept of mastery and slavery in the external domain, in the physical world. Sovereignty, a sovereign is a monarch, which means a single ruler who rules only the kingdom of self. Sovereignty is a state in which one controls one's own thoughts, emotions, and actions, and by bringing them into unity or non-contradiction or non-duality, attains mastery over one's own consciousness. Sovereignty could be considered the equivalent of true self-control, true self-mastery, true self-love, or true self-ownership. It's all of these things. And ultimately, it means not a slave. That's what has to be remembered above all else.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted again. My bad. I'll just play this one. It's 2 more minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Sovereign means above or beyond externally imposed rulership or control by another. That's what it means. Sovereign means not a subject to another being, like a king, like one who considers himself a king. And it means not a slave to someone who considers themselves your master. That's all sovereign means, folks. Not a slave. And why I say every single person here is a sovereign.
So yeah, that was just a snippet of what we just watched. So just let me, just give me a second here. So, despite all of, so just to finish my point, Dad, the reason why I brought that up, like the blood on your hands, and they went after hate speech. They're bringing in, some of the harshest things as a result, which we already know about because we've already got, this Karen and, new communications, under 16-year-old media bill. But the taking away of the guns, and at the same time the branding of sovereigns, which is all of us. So they're trying to shame us into somehow being in the wrong for something that we didn't do, and being punished for something that we didn't do. So if we want to just be free, sovereign people and do what is objectively moral, which is doing no harm, do not do unto to others what would happen to you, whatever the phrase is. You're not harming anyone, and yet, we are receiving the punishment with the branding of sovereigns. And I know that that's related to a particular event, but this is very deliberate. So, and then this happens with... So there's a couple of things coming out now, or coming up, which I'm about to show. One is about, the divide, the religious divide, and then there's the flooding of all of the immigrants. And then we have these powers that have been introduced, and this reaction of a new arrest, and then what happened after that. So let's go through that, and then we can talk more. Okay. Hang on a minute.
You leave old divisions and hatreds at the door. At the door. When you come to Australia, you are here to support our society, of which is diverse, but that diversity is a strength. And that is what overwhelmingly Australians want to see. Overwhelmingly. One of the things about...
Yeah, so good luck with that. So you're going to flood, it's happening in the UK and in Europe. So, the same thing's happening in Australia, right? So the deliberate flooding, number of reasons why you want to have for GDP or for the real estate, but to stoke divisions or for, to be able to, play people against each other and create these kind of events. But yeah, that's retardation if you think that, just, I'm in Australia now, so I'm just going to change how I acted back home. Yeah, so that you've got that, that push to keep up that narrative of diversity while you're flooding and, getting away with all of these things so you can kind of hide things, bring certain kinds of people into the country. And then so let's see what the event that happened afterwards as part of what I want to show. So this is an image of this tactical. So New South Wales police statement. A police operation at George Street, Liverpool, in Sydney's southwest has concluded. Tactical Operations Police responded to information received that a violent act was possibly being planned. Police subsequently intercepted 2 cars as part of the investigation. As investigations continue, 7 men are assisting police with their inquiries. At this point in time, police have not identified any connection to the current police investigation of the Bondi terror attack. So you have these people, and you have, this circulating through media, which is, again, it looks more military than police, and, you've got these people tied up, show of force, and then so what's the reaction after that?
The information received was that Bondi may have been one of a number of locations that the males were intending to attend, but the reason for attending is unknown. The justification for their ongoing detention no longer exists, subject to a review of evidence. They will continue to be monitored whilst in New South Wales, and we will work closely with our Victorian and Commonwealth law enforcement partners.
Yep, so that means there's something there, right? So, again, this is, and that event creates enough to circulate through media to get everything, to invoke more of this energy and reaction and all that kind of thing. So let's keep moving forward. Let's see what David Icke has to say. So, David Icke said in relation to this video here, I've been banned from Australia since 2019 for exposing mass murder and global manipulation by the Israeli government. It was done at the behest of a man and dog Zionist organisation called the Anti-Defamation Commission plus Murdoch newspapers, which told the then immigration minister what he was going to do. I guess I won't be going back soon then.
It is clear we need to do more to combat this evil scourge, much more. A special envoy to combat anti-Semitism, Gillian Siegel, has delivered a report that sets out further steps we can take. The Australian government adopts and fully supports the plan to combat anti-Semitism. We'll continue to work through the implementation of the 13 recommendations in consultation with the Jewish community and the envoy, and of course the first recommendation was the adoption of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism that the government adopted. Today I'm announcing a significant number of additional actions to build on the plan. Firstly, the Attorney-General and Minister for Home Affairs will develop a package of legislative reforms to crack down on those who spread hate, division and radicalisation. The National Security Committee has agreed that changes will include the following 5 points. Agreed changes will include: 1. Aggravated hate speech offence for preachers and leaders who promote violence. Secondly, increased penalties for hate speech promoting violence. Thirdly, making hate an aggravating factor in sentencing crimes for online threats and harassment. Fourthly, developing a regime for listing organisations whose leaders engage in hate speech promoting violence or racial hatred. And fifthly, developing a narrow federal offence for serious vilification based on race and/or advocating racial supremacy. The Minister for Home Affairs will also have new powers to cancel or reject visas for those who spread hate and division in this country or would do so if they were allowed to come here. David Gonski has agreed to lead a 12-month task force, which will include the envoy, to ensure the Australian education system prevents, tackles and properly responds to anti-Semitism. I, of course, acknowledge that more could have been done, and I accept my responsibility for the part in that as Prime Minister of Australia. But what I also do is accept my responsibility to lead the nation and unite the nation, because what people are looking for at this time isn't more division. They are looking to come together.
Right, so create the division, enforce a bunch of new laws designed to limit people communicating. So, I mean, I think it's clear for everyone there. Well, I'll spell it out. The use of the word of terms like hate is designed so that that's dissidents. That's anyone that they don't like, so you can be talking about morality and acting with care and whatever it is, who's going to decide what is hateful, like who's going to talk about, sowing racial division, and, to become, more of an astute learner and kind of cultivate, deeper wisdom, we need to research from an eclectic variety of sources. And that can be inclusive of watching and reading things of people's opinions that we don't agree with, or they have really good information on some things, but maybe not so other. And so the idea that we should all be doing as we're discerning truth is to get the best information that we can. And so why would some external authority be the decider of these kinds of things, right? And so, so that's doing something about it. It's, feeding into this whole religious, racial argument as well. So this is why I specifically now wanted to talk about religion and how religion is slavery, and to get into the actual definition of religion. And so the reason why I'm showing these videos as well is because even though it's not my work, it's Mike Passio's work, I really implore you to go look at his work. The point of it is because all of this stuff is designed to get our attention focused and divided, rather than in real unity, based in real truth and real objective morality and natural law. And so also I just want to be very clear that yes, there is the divine or the creator, however you want to talk about it. What we're talking about here is a religion, and not just like religion in terms of particular faiths, but also religion can mean more than that as well. So let's watch this.
So what we're really looking at here is all of the things that are holding us back from being truly free is some form of a religion. And again, this is not to say that there isn't something such as a positive form of religion as well. There is true religion, there is false religion. And I'll briefly go over both of these concepts. Okay? Religion, again, let's break down the word. I'm going to do this a lot. I do this a lot because it's so important to understand the words we speak and where they came from. Why the people who structured the English language chose the ancient language words that they chose to structure modern language. They weren't doing this arbitrarily. It was a very deliberate design to try to get people to understand what the words mean. The word religion comes from Latin, the verb religare. So ligare means to tie. Religare means to tie back, because the prefix re means back or again. So when we put them together, religare means to tie back, to hold back, or to thwart from forward progress, to bind, to hold back. So what is false religion? And this is the definition of false religion: to tie back, to hold back, to thwart from forward progress, to bind. What is it binding? What is it holding us back from? What is it tying us back? In what way is it thwarting our forward progress? Well, it's tying us back from truth. It's giving us beliefs in place of truth. It's saying, well, this is a belief, this is an opinion, it's as valid as knowledge. No, it's not as valid as knowledge. Knowledge isn't based on opinion or belief. Knowledge is based on truth, which does exist and is discoverable. So what religion holds us back from is forward progress in consciousness, in our understanding of ourselves and the universe. This is why it has to go. It has to go. All religions. The only religion needs to be truth. That's what we need to be tied to. That's what we need to be bound to, what the truth is. Not what a religion says is true or says you should believe, but what is actually true because you determined it. You discovered it. And the main thing that unites us to that is the understanding of natural law, or morality. When we understand morality, we become united with truth. We are bound back to that which is true. Because when we fall away from morality, we have fallen away from the truth about right and wrong. So what I call religion is a control system. A system of control that is based in unchallenged dogmatic belief which holds back the progress of consciousness. That is the definition of false religion. When we make truth our religion, we undo all of that. We undo those belief systems, we go with the truth wherever it leads us, and we unite with it. And then we move forward in consciousness and we become freer. We want to ignore the truth, going into a deeper cage. As the mind goes into a cage, society goes into a cage. The principle of correspondence.
Right, so I wanted to bring that up. And I've got this next story loaded up here, but I wanted to bring that up because there's a deliberate there's a flaring up of religious tension. And what we saw in that last article, the video from the Prime Minister, it's about attacking hate speech and people that are, going on about racial things and all of that. This is just the way that they get these systems in place. This is really about taking away our freedom to communicate, our, this is, you can label anything hate, right? And you can give yourself vast abilities to surveil populations and to bring in systems of control. And when we're in these heightened times and everyone's been divided, it allows these things to go through. But then even when you get, when people's, people are wanting to act, they're also, going to the government, to, look for solutions. Like, we need another prime minister. We need to, get someone, it's all feeding into the same thing. While at the same time, they're attacking our, sovereignty and self-defense, and also, our ability for speech. And so it's a multi-pronged attack designed to get you in a state where, what's going to happen in the future when more events happen, I've got, it's, this is brutal, but also, the reason why I'm bringing in this more educational side of it today is because I really want to ground in a proper response to this. Right, it's so important. We're not going to find our solutions in these systems. So, what does Max Egan have to say on this? This is we're bouncing around a little bit here, but this is the guy that had the bandage on his head, where it said it skimmed the top of his head. He says he survived the attack on the Nova Festival on October 7th in Israel. Yet here he's tweeting he's in a bunker more than 100 miles away. And so, these things are all going on. And again, this is all part of more of the particular events on the day and all that kind of thing. And so if you haven't noticed already, I'm deliberately wanting to shift my level of focus and awareness, and with kind of bringing this video together, is on these particular responses and why in particular they're doing them. So stoking a lot of division to do with religion. Obviously, the Islamic part and the Jewish part. But then also, religion takes more forms too. So, let's finish off with the all forms of religion need to be eliminated by Mark Passio.
So let's move to the next slide. I am for the destruction of all forms of religion. Let me make no bones about that or no mistake about it in anybody's mind. I have been anti-religious from day one. And here's the problem, folks. Because other people are anti-religious, but they're reactionarily anti-religious. They're not logically anti-religious. They have a reaction against religion. This is what I was. In my lack of knowledge and in my lack of the understanding of the scientific methodology when I was young, okay, I turned reactionarily anti-religious. There's a difference between being logically anti-religious and being reactionarily anti-religious. So my reactionary state of rejection of religious dogma led me into a mindset of hatred and a mindset of incorrect form of rebellion to move into the belief in the dark occult and Satanism. That's my life path. That's what happened to me. And I didn't wake up until I realized that this was a system of slavery being directed by social engineers and the most powerful people in human civilization, as far as what resources they had at their command and how much they actually held sway and thrall over the human mind. Culturally, they were the culture creators, they were the social engineers, and ultimately they were the master psychologists that had dark occult knowledge. They had the knowledge of the occult and they were using it for totally abusive, dark purposes, namely to enslave. And ultimately, really to cull, which is one of their agendas. So, when you are reactionarily anti-religious, you will be led away from the truth. It won't get you to the truth because you're just reacting against one thing that's not true. The social engineers always have prepared something ready, and they're able to go with it. You're reacting towards something that isn't true, and they have this other dialectic prepared. This is the dialectical manipulation that they practice. It's called the Hegelian Dialectic. Okay, I call it polarization dialectics. Okay, you have one false extreme that isn't true, and when people recognize it isn't true and react against it, instead of logically coming to the conclusion of how and why it isn't true through scientific process, through truth discovery process, you could easily sway them into a totally polar opposite, also untrue dialectic. And that is the difference between all religions and atheism, all cultural religions and atheism. Now, here, when I say I'm against all forms of religion, I'm not just talking about the world/cultural organized religious traditions like Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, etc. Those are what I call the world and cultural organized traditions. Whether they're world religions or just locally cultural organized religious traditions, it's irrelevant. Those are the known religious traditions that have names. Then we have religions like government, politics, money, the belief in authority. These are also religious belief systems. I'd put carnism up there as a religious belief system, okay? I would put the belief that we can be free without accepting the existence of natural law and understanding how it works. How about that as a religion? What's your religion? Well, my religion is I think that humanity can be free, yet natural law is hokum, and it's bunk, and we don't need to know anything about it or how it works, and yet we can be free. That's religion. That's religious thought. How about this one? I believe that we can be free, but we don't need to actually develop any kind of sustainable technology. We could just continue to burn hydrocarbons, which we're totally controlled by, and pollute our environment and create an unsustainable planet, and yet we could just be free. We could somehow attain freedom in that mindset. That's a religion, What about atheism, which we're going to talk about? That's not a religious belief. That's a religious belief holding us back from the truth. Because not to acknowledge the existence of some form of ordering force or intelligence in the universe that sets laws into being, whether it sets them into being or sustains laws that are self-existing. Any way you want to look at that, that is a higher order force, a higher order intelligence, a higher order power in creation. Again, you don't need to believe in a personal deity that like interferes in human affairs. I don't accept a personal God. I believe God is law in creation. And it allows total free will, because to interfere in free will would be to enslave. And the creator / creation does not do that. It allows choice. It allows free will. But it sets laws. It has laws that are in effect, that it put into effect or sustains, that it allows one to make decisions and learn how those decisions interoperate with the law that is in effect in creation, to learn and to grow and to understand how things really work. And those laws do not constitute a prison. This is what the dark occultists think. They think because there are laws binding behavior and we can't do whatever we want without consequence, that that's a prison. That's their mindset. That's their mentality. That's their worldview. So again, I'm for the destruction of all religion. I think religion is the one and only problem that humanity ultimately faces. You can look at all of the things I'm saying in this presentation, and it all comes back to religious belief, which is believing something that isn't true, that holds back our progress in consciousness. From the Latin relegare, meaning to hold back, to tie by binding, and to thwart from forward progress in consciousness. That's literally what the word religion means, where it comes from. So, I don't know how I can make it any more clearer. I've said before, maybe I just need to make a whole presentation about why I think religion is the whole problem, because people still don't understand what I mean by the word religion. They hear religion and you think your definition. You hear the term natural law, you think your definition. You hear the word evolution, you think your definition. I am not using the definition of words in the same way that people traditionally think of the definition of words. It's unfortunate, but we have limited language, and inventing words usually doesn't go a long way toward really helping people to understand a new meaning, like voluntarism. Okay? More people are trying to use that word, but it's like pushing an invented word onto people. And it does make sense, but just going out of your way to try and invent a word. We could use language and we could say, here's what the culturally accepted definition of this is, but let's look at what it really means at a deeper fundamental level. Religion doesn't just mean Christianity, Judaism, Islam. It means that which holds us back from an understanding of truth, because we are accepting dogma and belief instead of actual facts and knowledge. And I'm for the elimination of that erroneous thought process. I want a scientific, rigorous investigation of how nature actually functions and the laws of nature function. And if we really did that as a species, we would discover natural law is real, it is operating at all times and places, and there are consequences for our chosen behaviors regarding whether they are moral or immoral, meaning right or wrong, meaning whether they do not initiate harm to other sentient beings, or whether they do initiate harm to other sentient beings. And that dynamic exists naturally in the 3D world of nature. It's not invented by man. We don't govern that process, meaning we don't invent what is right and wrong. We are to discover what is right and wrong and align our behavior to it through an act of our will, which most people aren't doing, which is why we're not becoming a type 1 civilization.
So there we have it, guys. That's what I wanted to share in while all of these religious tensions are being brought up. So now you've got the definition, and you understand that it's a wider scope. So if you want to learn more, go to What on Earth is Happening, and you can learn more there. And so before closing out, there's this other fella that I like. Yes, I know he's using AI, but let's read through this. Let's see. Let's do this. In a world full of hidden agendas, it's important and worth the effort to make sure as many people as possible get a clear view of the psychological manipulation at play. If people who see through it don't speak, the false narratives dominate. That's why I'm doing this, guys. This is just why I'm here doing this right now on a Friday night. Public discourse, which the China shut down, is rife with those who have been potty trained to swallow and repeat the empire's lies and perversions. Migration isn't a bottom-up issue. It's intentionally carried out by the empire as a top-down divide and conquer tool. Australia and the West are colonies of Rome/Crown, and we are ruled through a global Masonic construct of which all governments are a part of. I guess I want to have a bit of a caveat in here. Of course, I don't agree with all of the things here. I'm presenting this as for you to make up your own mind and to take the parts which are good. But yeah, there's my point here being that Masons and all that kind of stuff is a part of the overall picture. But there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. Our Western politicians are house slaves that serve their masters inside the castle gates, while the majority of us are stuck ploughing the fields. Shootings like Bondi are desired spectacles for the masses and used to reinforce the agendas of their establishment, to which Zionism is central. A lot of people don't adopt racist or tribal mindsets out of raw hatred alone, but because of non-stop brainwashing, shock tactics and psyops meant to turn groups against each other. Racial, religious conflict and Israel versus Palestine is being exploited far beyond what's happening on the ground in that region. Weaponized dialectics get milked in all kinds of ways for culture wars and identity politics reasons. The resentment here is in the West aimed at Muslims, migrants and Jews is stoked deliberately by those in power to divide our populations. Governments are using this situation to justify restrictions on speech and dissent. Example, conflating criticism of Israel with hate speech or anti-Semitism. Hiding behind fighting extremism, the agenda is surveillance expansion, watching what people say online and cracking down on disagreement. The same people who bring Islam into Australia are the same people orchestrating the White Australia nationalist movement. The slave masters who own and are in control of the glass jar are placing red and black ants inside and shaking it, while the real enemy sits back laughing at us. Yeah, you can also tell this is AI as well, but yeah. They want us trapped in fake dialectics. Nationalists against migrant, Hamas against Israel, Jew against Muslim, left versus right. These are distractions. Hamas itself was an instrument created by the Zionist Empire in 1978 to control and divide opposition. The Roman Empire, known for its mastery of propaganda, used the title of caliph to legitimize caliphates and intentionally engineered for control. Through perpetual lies, distortions, and deliberate manipulations designed to fuel sectarian and racial conflict, these imperialist powers have succeeded in demonizing Abrahamic religions in the eyes of large segments of the population. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity in their modern form and their radical priests have all been infiltrated and contrived by these bloodline royals and serve as proxies to further the empires of biblical prophecy. The world structure presents itself as an interfaith on the surface, but esoterically it operates through a shared belief system rooted in Babylon. Atrocities are not carried out by ordinary Muslims or Christians, etc., but by a ruling class using religion for top-down control. The 0.1 ruling class versus 99% ordinary people, the true divide between empire and the slaves. So, I wanted to read through that because of over the overlapping points. So, what I'll end on here is similar to what ended the previous video with, is that this is a technocratic, transhumanist, occultocracy, and it's a cartel. And what I've been talking about, and it's, I've been learning from other people. You can study their science, whether it's Salvatore Pais or Ashton Forbes or whomever it may be. In terms of the physics, there's also Tom Montauk, but yeah, Truth Social parent to merge with nuclear fusion firm in $6 billion deal. Trump Media and Technology Group, the social media and crypto company part owned by President Trump, said it would help develop a utility-scale fusion power plant. So it's very obvious now, and the next video, I think what I'm going to do is go through a 4-hour symposium kind of and do a watch along. We'll see. But yeah, it's based on the technology that's being rolled out, Palantir and pre-crime and all of that kind of stuff. And this is going to be powered by breakthrough energy, which is a neutronic fusion. And what have we got here? Parent company of Trump is buying a nuclear fusion, and it's going to help develop a utility scale fusion power plant. So this breakthrough energy can be, and this is the rent that I've got that you've heard before if you've watched other episodes, going to hide breakthrough energy behind national security of hide breakthrough energy behind the national security of nuclear. It's going to power quantum and AI, and things are going to get really out of control with surveillance and the technology that's available, and manipulating time, space, all of that stuff. That's where all of this is leading, and all these events are helping to usher the way for that. So, with all that being said, no time like better than now to be an organic human. Yep, and so just to recap this video, there's a lot of stoking of fears. There's a lot of over-the-top authoritarian kind of laws coming into place, targeting the population, looking to pacify them and remove means of speaking up about it or taking any actions, and to vilify terms like sovereignty, which is true freedom, having no rulers, and using all of those religious and racial dialectics to create these outcomes for this technology. So I wanted to bring this to you all today because I wanted to respond to these events in alignment with natural law. And for me, a big part of that is learning what sovereignty and religion is, so that we can respond in a way which is not feeding those systems, and that we can respond in alignment with natural law and objective morality, and therefore we can all work to being free, which would be awesome. Okay, thanks everybody. Until next time. Ciao for now.